update. It is a bloodbath right now. We have so much respect for you guys for being here right now, for keeping your heads level, because there's so much fight in the marketplace. There's so many people, and it's the best. Like, I actually love this time because it's those that constantly say to me, Bitcoin's dying, Bitcoin's completely dead, you've lost all your money. They always come out right now, and they're all like, text leadership are saying, oh yeah, everything will be okay when you're getting sued by 3 different states in America, and the Attorney General's breathing down your throat. This isn't anything like that. This isn't any of that crap. We have seen this. We are seasoned veterans in this market. We've seen this happen so many times, and it's you guys, like, you're getting thicker skin by being here right now, and the next time that something like this happens, the bloodbath, because there will be a next time. The next time it happens, you guys are going to be reassuring everyone else and your friends and family who will be involved at that time, because they would have seen the next, wave of gains that you guys are going to see. So, I want you to take a moment. I want you to physically reach behind your left shoulder with your right arm and tap yourselves on the back, because the mental game you guys have right now is absolutely next level, and I have so much respect for all of you being here and to really just being great support for us as well as for the whole community, because there's a lot of you on the call. Chris, I see you there. Bill, I see you there as well. We see everything that you guys do for our community. We see all the questions you guys are answering. Those have been around here for a little bit longer than others that contribute. We really, really appreciate that. So my flight literally boards in about 12 minutes. So before we kind of get started, I wanted to just make sure, can everyone hear me okay? Just type in the questions box. This is actually a first for me. I've never done a webinar at an airport, let alone outside of my house, and it's very interesting to be talking to a computer with passion, with headphones on, moving my hands around, because I always talk to my hands and having people look at me and think that I'm absolutely on drugs. It is quite the experience. So everyone can hear me loud and clear. Yes. Phil can hear me. Where's everyone calling in from? Yes, still getting a ton of yeses. Sydney, Bangkok, Canberra. Kelly's coming from Melbourne. Katie's coming from Canberra. Jason's coming from Gold Coast. Rich is coming from Adelaide. Neville's coming from Western Australia. Jason's from the USA. What time is it where you are, Jason? Sydney, Melbourne. People's coming from your bedroom. Good to know. Brisbane, Paul, I'm actually on my way up to Brisbane shortly. Parramatta, Sydney, Melbourne. I think we literally have every state or capital city here in Australia. We got some from Wellington, Sunny Coast. I'm going to hand it over to Dirk for a sec while the PA's there.
Yeah, guys. So it's awesome to see all of you here on the webinar. Derek is also on here, even though Mitch has just been taking the lead. Hey! Simply because he's about to board the plane. And then basically the format we want to do for this webinar is we're going to talk a bit about the state of the markets between Derek and myself. And after that, we're going to go through Q&A. We've got a whole bunch of questions from some of you that have filled in the form already for questions you want us to answer on the webinar. And of course, any questions you have throughout the presentation, we'll be answering that also. Mitch, I think you're back.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm back. So I'll just say one more thing. We've been really blown away as well at all the great questions. We've got emails.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is now the final 40.
All right, let's give Mitch a second, and then we'll kick him off the webinar and let him get on his plane, so we don't have that annoying.
Yeah, so that's literally going to be the last interruption, because I'm going to jump off the webinar for this. So enjoy the webinar, and thanks so much for all the questions. I'll see you guys in the members there. I'll see you guys in the chats, and I will speak to you soon.
Thanks, Mitch. Thanks, Mitch. Safe trip. All right. So Derek and I are here on the call, and we're going to talk a little bit about the state of the market because, as you can see, this is quite a market cap that I'm just going to keep that on the screen, and maybe we'll do some screen sharing, but mostly it's just going to be us talking. And basically, we're pretty low. Okay, we're at 384 billion, which is actually close to the low. I think we went to 360. So maybe let me open up a trading view. What do you have to say about the markets right now, Derek?
Yeah, I'd say, wow, we've seen quite a pullback, as everyone can see here. There's a couple of different things at play, I'd say. As we've been talking about, this is actually the last 4 years now in a row we've had a pretty significant correction in January, spreading into February. So I definitely think that's part of it. We've also seen a whole lot of different FUD and some different news articles come out, a lot of them proving to be false. I think this all really started to kick off with the delisting of the Korean exchanges on CoinMarketCap and kind of the what ended up to be false news about Korea banning crypto or banning the exchanges. Of course, that didn't actually happen. But from that point on, it's kind of been a lot of story after story after story kind of piling on. And then I would say also coupled with what we normally see in January, and then on top of that, I know you were saying it a lot yourself, Dirk, and I've been saying it a lot when we were having that crazy run up during December. That's not normal, right? So we know at some point you've got to have a correction. There has to be a pullback where people take their profits, where they start to test a retrace and basically see where the levels of support are. So I think we just didn't really have very strong levels of support, as you can see in these charts here, because we had such an intense run up in the prices from I think mid-October until December. We pretty much just had just a crazy run up across Bitcoin and pretty much every altcoin. I mean, I don't think there was any coin that didn't move massively in November and December. So I think all of that coupled, coming together at one time is kind of giving us a very heavy retrace, if you will.
Yeah, and of course we don't want to make this like a technical analysis kind of thing or anything like that. But it's important to note what's actually going on in these markets is way more than just you and I and all of us buying Bitcoin. It's not like that. There's some serious forces here at play, and these people are making billions and tens of billions of dollars. Like if you see this whole move up, so when we started towards mid November kind of, this was when the whole futures.
Just quickly, guys. Can everyone see? There's a couple of messages saying no one can see the screen. Can everyone see the screen?
Yeah, I see it. Anybody?
Yeah, I can see. Excellent. I'm still here. I'm literally standing in line waiting to get on the plane. Just watching. sorry about that, Dirk. Just wanted to make sure that everyone could see the screen. Yeah.
Cool, no problem. So basically, what I'm trying to say here is in middle November, this is the whole futures issue where we got the CME futures and the OEBC, what the other one?
CBOE, yeah.
CBOE, yeah. So basically that resulted in this whole massive push up, and now we're just back at the same level pretty much as where we were before that whole issue. So instead of looking at it from, hey, we're down 55% from the high, we're actually at the same point before all this kind of big manipulation came in, because it's not a coincidence that as the futures get announced and as there's possibility for institutions to start investing in it, that we get these massive movements in the market, all right? And other things that we need to realize is that, like you and I and all of us, we don't control these markets at all. It's the institutions, okay? It's maybe big whales or individuals or groups of individuals, conglomerates. They move these markets up and down. They know exactly when they're going to buy and pump up the price. They know exactly when they're going to sell, and they're going to sell their positions at the top. They're going to short it, write it down, and they're going to buy again at the bottom. Okay, so things that are coming up, for example, is like Goldman Sachs is actually launching or planning on launching their custodian exchange on the 2nd of April, which means that now institutions can get involved in cryptocurrency, actually buy crypto. So it's not trading on contracts or futures. They will be able to own crypto with the safety and security of Goldman Sachs, managing it on their behalf, which is huge. Other things that are happening, so there's talks of China actually and the ICBC bank one of the biggest banks in China also that they're actually creating cryptocurrency ATMs, and there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. So I wouldn't be surprised if this whole move down is actually just an attempt by these big players to push it down, make money while doing it, and then load up massively on cheap cryptocurrency on Bitcoin and Ethereum just before it rides up, and then it's going to go and get pushed up. And then by the time that these services, go live, that's like Derek was saying to me, there's no way that Goldman Sachs is going to be buying Bitcoin at 50K to be able to sell it to other people, right?
Right.
They want to buy it low so that they can sell it to their friends or sell it to their rivals, it doesn't even matter, at 10 times the price or 20 times the price. And that's a lot of stuff that's going on here right now. So we see this a lot in other markets. Okay, it happens in all sorts of markets, precious metal markets. I mean, the prices are being manipulated. All sorts of, the real estate market, the stock markets, and forex. It's incredible how those markets are manipulated, especially because there's a lot of leverage involved. And the crypto markets right now, they're still very tiny. The market cap compared to any other asset class is easily manipulable, especially by hedge funds who have a decent amount of money available. They can just push the price down, or people who own a lot of Bitcoin. For example, Roger Ver, who owns probably tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin, maybe even him himself could just tank the market if he wanted to. So that's just stuff to keep in mind. It's not just you and me and things like that.
Yeah, I think you already pointed out, but I think it's really important to kind of zero in on the fact that we know that you have Goldman Sachs and other institutions moving into custodial services where they're actually going to physically hold Bitcoin. And like you said, I personally don't believe they're going to be paying 20K for Bitcoin, right? So they're going to do whatever they need to do to move the prices down first. Obviously, we can't verify with absolute certainty that that's what's happened, and it is somewhat of a conspiracy theory, but I say if you look at everything happening at the same time, and then you look at, all the news coming out, everything just piling on, and you look at what the plans are over the next couple of months for these big institutions, I think it makes sense, right? This is going to be the buying opportunity for those guys to get in and, pay a price that they're comfortable with and sell it back to the newer entrants into the market later at a higher price.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see a few questions come in. We'll get to that in a sec. We just kind of wanna have a little say and opinion about what we think, and then we can jump into the Q&A. So please just bear with us for that. Another thing. So basically, where I personally see this going is I think this is the big final dip. Okay, this is going to get a lot of say weak hands out of cryptocurrency. People who bought in towards the top. Okay, who bought in on this high, and people who were greedy, who don't believe in it, who've been sitting on the sidelines. They bought in 15 to 20,000 Bitcoin, and now they're seeing this. And a lot of people are going to panic sell. They're going to say, "I told you so. It was a scam," etc., etc., etc. For me personally, I think for all three of us, we mentioned Derek also, we see this as a big buying opportunity to dollar cost average on projects that we believe in. Okay, so not just crappy coins, shit coins, whatever you want to call them, like legit projects that have a future. For example, the ones that we put in the newsletter, we all think those are solid coins that have a long-term future and that have a high chance of succeeding. Those are good opportunities for us personally. And I think we're going to see a lot of very interesting things happen this year, not just in terms of cryptocurrency, okay, definitely in terms of cryptocurrency, but also in terms of the stock market, the global financial situation. Things are really out of whack and way above the medium, above the norm in all other parts of the world. And that's all things that at some stage, there has to be some sort of reality check for all those things that's been happening in the world. The amount of money that's being printed, the amount of money that's artificially being pumped into the stock market, the amount of derivatives and everything that's going on right now. It's all not normal and it's all not sustainable. So this year will definitely be an interesting year in terms of that. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Derek?
Yeah, I think definitely all of that. Just to add to that, I would say there's a few positives that I can say of this kind of weeding out of the weak hands, if you will, or whatever you want to call it in the markets. I think if you look over the past couple of months, there's been a lot of irrationality in the market, like people thinking that any new project that comes out is just going to moon, and like everything you should just buy immediately. And I think it's been dangerous because what I've noticed is a kind of habit if you look on the different Facebook groups or on Reddit or whatever, like people are just buying stuff based solely off of hype, and they're not taking any time to do research. They don't even know what it is that they're buying. So I think if we can learn something from this kind of experience, if you're newer to the markets and you've never seen something like this happen before, a few things I would say is, hopefully this is going to lead people to take more time when they're researching their investments. I think, if you're going to invest in any cryptocurrency, any ICO, any project, you should spend, a week or however long it takes for you to research it. Don't just buy something because it just hit the exchange and you need to get it fast because, it's going to go up, up, and up. And I think basically if you looked at what was happening, everybody was on, Reddit or Twitter or whatever, just shilling every single coin, like, it's going to moon, it's going to moon, it's going to moon. And I think unfortunately with so many people buying into that hype is actually a big part of what pushed the market up so fast, so quickly, or so high so quickly, I should say. And I think, of course that can't last. So I'm hoping, and I think what we will see is now we're going to see, after a lot of people have now left the market that maybe didn't know too much about it and just invested based off hype, people that are educated and are, looking at long-term projects are going to be able to get good deals, if you will, or, come back into the market in a stronger position after this turbulent period that we're in right now. Personally, I also think we're near the bottom. Could it go a little bit lower? Sure, but we can't be certain of that. But I do think that probably in the next week or two we'll see I guess stabilization around this rate, and it'll start to move a little bit up. And then I think towards the end of this month, maybe beginning of March, we should start to see a push upwards again. Just personal opinion, of course. I don't know with absolute certainty.
Yeah, of course. I think there's a couple of questions. So basically, Sherry's asking, if there's so much big manipulation, what's that to stop from being a permanent condition? Is it always going to be manipulated? I think, yes, it is a permanent condition. All markets are manipulated by people for their own interest, and I think that's always going to be there. And I think actually, in fact, it's just going to get worse. But at the same time, as the market cap grows, so when it gets to trillions of dollars or maybe tens of trillions of dollars, it is going to be harder to manipulate this market. You're going to need a lot more money and a lot more influence to manipulate it. But right now it is being manipulated, and it will continue to be that. So again, that's why it's important to research your coins that you put money into. It's important not to be leveraged. It's also important not to put in more than you can play with or that you can afford to lose. Because if you're stretched too thin, and if you put in too much money of this, or money that you actually need for other things, when a drop like this occurs, you don't know what to do, right? Maybe you weren't counting on it, maybe you don't have a plan for it, and maybe it puts you in a situation where you actually can't handle the loss, even if it's a temporary loss, and that might force you to panic sell. So it's very important to stick within those rules when you do put any money inside markets. And actually that also gives you the opportunity to increase or to dollar cost average, right? To make your position as overall better entry points when it does dip, because you have that money, you have that room to play with. Don't go and take out loans or anything of the sort. I know we say this over and over again, and for a lot of you it might be like, well, we know that already, but you'd be surprised, how fear and greed acts on people, even when they are generally logical and reasonable people. So that's super, super important.
Absolutely. Yeah, just to add one thing to that, I agree that, and I think it's pretty much a well-known fact that all markets are manipulated. We just don't always know who the players are manipulating them. But here's one key thing to remember. Though there will be manipulation in markets, what they're counting on is that people are going to act based out of fear or just like raw excitement without doing any research. So the reason why they manipulate markets or they push it down like this is because there are so many people that are going to panic and they're going to freak out and they're going to sell at these low rates. And that's why, that's the actual point of what they're trying to accomplish. So as long as you know the game that they're playing, then you can be smart about it, right? You can, and that goes to what Dirk was saying, why we tell people all the time, only invest what you can afford to lose. And, we really, really mean that. Like, don't use money you need to use next week or next month or whatever, because then you can sit out times like this and you don't have to panic and sell. And then even though there is this brief moment where the markets may be down, you can actually take advantage of that by actually strengthening your positions, right? Increasing your positions in whatever you believe in, bringing your dollar cost average down, whereby the people that don't listen to that kind of advice and do put in more than they can afford to lose, or are actually trying to make this like their primary source of income, in these moments they are in a bad position, and that's just kind of what the people that are trying to manipulate the markets are counting on.
Yeah. So just again, Sherry's following up on that. How do you make money when the market is being manipulated? Being manipulated doesn't mean it just means that people are using it for personal gain, right? The market's still going to go up and it's still going to go down, and it basically means
Right.
overall we still think that the market has a long, long way up to go. So one way to make money is to get in the projects early, okay, the projects with potential, and to ride them up. So that's what our strategy is, where we're buying and holding good projects, we're getting in early, and we're looking for that larger return. And then of course when the project doubles or triples in value, you take out your initial, so you have zero risk, and then you can just hold that, because we think that crypto is going to go up far, far more than where it is today. Now, how you lose money is basically by trying to day trade, by trying to time the markets, by trying to pick tops and bottoms and things like that. You have to be super, super smart and have an incredible team, and even then, it's pretty much impossible. There's like a few percent of people in the world who can manage that profitably long term. So that's why we always say that, don't day trade, don't leverage, and basically what I just said, try and find good projects early on and try and ride them up, and then remove your initial capital so that you eliminate your risk.
Yeah, and to kind of zone in on that a little bit more, Sherry, just to speak from my personal experience, the majority of the gains or profits that I had from last year in my portfolio were from buying the heavy dip that we had during August and September, and then riding that up throughout the next several months. So I'm still up significantly on a lot of positions that I purchased, even though the market right now is way, way down. So that kind of means when I see opportunities like this for me is a huge opportunity, because this is where I can get projects where even if we just go back up to the levels where we were at before, we're talking 50, 60, sometimes some of these coins are 70, 80% down right now. So if you believe in the project and you think it's going to be around, and you think it's something that's worth investing in, these are the opportunities where it's the best time to invest. So that's how you take advantage of the kind of downward manipulation. You wait for these times, and then you pick up whatever it is you're looking to buy, because it's on a heavy discount, if you will.
Yep.
Oh, and Mark, real quick, because I saw that we are recording this, so if you have to go, yeah, we'll have a replay in the members area for you.
Absolutely. Scott's asking, can you explain why Visa and MasterCard have stopped partnering with crypto companies? Basically, this is a very logical thing, because crypto is highly volatile, and people don't want, or banks don't want, to be supplying credit for people to gamble on highly volatile assets, because people might just panic sell. They have these loans and they can't pay them back, right? It's the same like you can't actually use credit cards to buy stocks, or or to buy chips at a poker table in a casino and stuff like that. Debit cards, yes, because it is your own money, but I think that's just the reason behind it. Of course, like, people are being irresponsible with this, and it's just for the average person who's going to be taking out loans and credit like this, they're just playing with the bank's money, and ultimately they're going to make bad decisions, and probably just from a risk point of view, it just doesn't make sense for the bank. So that I don't think that's anything to be concerned about.
Yeah, and then with there's chargebacks as well. So when you can do a chargeback, but there's no way to get crypto back from somebody once they have it. so doing the chargeback, it puts the credit card companies at huge risk if you decide you're going to charge back and then you still have the crypto, right? So it does make logical sense. It's not like an end of the world type situation for the banks going after crypto or anything.
Yeah. We have a bunch of questions. We're going to be here for a while, guys. Like Derek said, it is being recorded, so if you feel you need to go, or you get tired of our voices, you feel free to log off, so there will be a replay.
This one I was actually going to talk about, because this is a big one for Dane. What's up, Dane? So he says, none of the FUD of the last few months has gotten to me, but this most recent SEC hearing on Tuesday is pretty big. I'm pretty curious to see what the market does when the New York Stock Exchange opens in a few hours. If anything has the ability to drive Bitcoin's price down, is this. Okay. Well, 2 points on that. Yeah. So there is, if anybody's not aware, there is an actual joint hearing of the SEC and the CFTC, which in America is the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. And so those two boards, those two government agencies, basically decide all the policies, all the laws, everything regarding trading commodities and securities in the U.S. So they're holding a joint session, a joint hearing on the 6th, and they're going to spend a couple hours talking about cryptocurrency, talking about ICOs. And Dane, I personally am excited about it because I think, whichever way it goes, we're finally going to get some clarity. And I think a lot of the, hesitation in the markets has been because there isn't any clarity. And especially with ICOs, you have a lot of different ICOs that are just not accepting Americans. And I think that's solely because of the reason that nobody has actually come out and given any clarification for, what those policies should be. So it could, of course, be negative, but personally, I think, speaking to what Derek was talking about earlier, I think the timing is quite suspect, right? I think there's something to the timing of this. I think personally that they're preparing to, put the policies in place and give confidence to the market so that these big banks that we've been talking about, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, these guys can go and now offer this product to their customers, and their customers are now going to feel secure in purchasing it because there is going to be clarification from the government. So personally, that's what I've been hearing. But they are going to have, so just to finish up on this, they are going to have a lot of participants from all angles of the market. So they're going to have lawyers there, people that run exchanges, different financial services firms, people that have done ICOs, and I believe a few representatives from Bittrex are supposed to be there as well, as Bittrex is a big U.S.-based exchange. So I think if anything, this should hopefully, if there's really positive news out of this, I think that may be the thing that turns the market around in and of itself.
Yeah, so just two things, just hearing you talk about this. The one thing is, didn't you say, I thought you told me, there's actually one state in the U.S. that's actually considering passing a bill.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You want to talk about that a little bit?
So there is a bill that's being put into place. Let me just grab the details real quick. It's in Wyoming, and there is a collective group of senators and congressmen there that it's 12 sponsors so far, and basically what they're doing is they're going to try to pass a bill that exempts ICO utility tokens, or crypto tokens, from being labeled as securities. So this is a bill that is going forward right now, and the idea is, I actually pulled this up so I can read his words here. Is this the right article? I don't have the right one, but anyways, basically the guy that's sponsoring this bill is stating, that tokens basically act as a prepayment or pre-purchase of services, right? We know a lot of tokens are basically buying access to software in advance, whether it's Substratum and you're buying access to using their decentralized internet network, or whatever it is. So we can buy gift cards online, and you and we can trade and sell gift cards or phone minutes or whatever. So the idea of this bill is, a token is no different than that. It's not actually meant to be a security. It's not necessarily meant to be something people invest in, though of course they do. But the idea, what the company themselves are selling is an access to use their service. So I think this is very positive. If this does get through and pass in Wyoming, it will be the very first type of legislation anywhere in the world specifically addressing utility tokens. So that's pretty positive right there.
Yeah, that's super, super interesting. And the second thing is also, there's news going around of Bittrex actually being able to accept fiat in the near future.
Correct, yeah.
So there's so much going on in the cryptocurrency world that's all positive and moving towards a bigger infrastructure and more big players getting involved and more integration into the existing real world, that this dip, which we're seeing now, totally doesn't correspond with the actual stuff that's happening in the world, which is why we feel really, really good about it and really confident that this is not the end of cryptocurrency, as the FUD people are spreading around.
Definitely. And yeah, Dane, I think it's really, the timing is really important on all this stuff. I don't think it's a coincidence that this hearing is happening when the market's way down and also the big banks are getting ready to move into it. I personally don't really believe in coincidences, so I think you need to watch, what are the big players doing, and, how is this all happening at the same time. I think kind of put the pieces together. I would be very surprised if this hearing wasn't about actually putting some sort of regulations in place for the banks to, sell Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies directly to their customers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, and I'm just going to say one thing real quick before signing off because I'm about to push back. That everything the boys are saying is spot on, and to take them one step further, all the regulation coming out of the Asian countries, China, North Korea, not North Korea, South Korea, with regards to cryptocurrencies, one of the big things that's happening here, and one of the big things that's really strengthening us in the long term, but in the short term, it's choking a lot of money out, and it's making everything a lot cheaper. Like you can see it on the screen right now, Bitcoin has dropped below $8,000 US, and it's still going down, and that's pretty much all I've got time to leave you with because we are pushing back. But the guys have got you in good hands. Thanks to everyone for being on here. We've almost got a full house with you guys, and yeah, lots of love, and I'll speak to you soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Mitch.
Thanks, Mitch. Safe flight.
So a couple questions. The chart I'm using over here, it's tradingview.com. It's free to use. There is a paid version if you want to get super fancy with it, but this is a free version. It allows you to put a few indicators on, and you can see all the pairs. And it's not just cryptocurrency, actually. It's got all sorts of, it's got Forex on it. It's got U.S. stock markets, indices, everything. Like here, for example, this is the S&P 500, which actually is a very interesting chart. You can see we don't really talk about stock markets, obviously it's based around cryptocurrencies, but if you look how the run-up of the markets have been in the stock markets, it's crazy. Like you can see this massive run-up, and even actually just Friday we started having this big drop, and it was actually the biggest drop I think in over a year, or maybe even over in 2 years, with the Dow dropping over 600 points in a single day, and again it is still dropping. So anyway, coming back, this is tradingview.com, and that's basically the trading platform over there. The webinar, the recording, we'll try and put that up in the next 24 hours, Gary.
All right. Yeah, Ryan's asking about China here. So, considering China is one of the largest trading nations by volume, are you guys worried at all about the Chinese government clamping down? Well, I'll say my part on that. Cryptocurrency is not illegal in China, nor is like blockchain technology, or actually trading or owning or using cryptocurrency. So there is a big amount of volume in peer-to-peer trading in China, which of course doesn't show up on the exchanges anywhere because it's not a publicly facing exchange. But China shut the exchanges down in, I believe, the beginning of August, which is kind of what caused the big correction in the markets in the middle of last year. But as of recently, they're just kind of strengthening their positions. As far as I understand, what's happening now is they are blocking the IP addresses, or basically just blocking access to foreign exchange websites. So whether that's Binance or Bittrex or whatever, this is normal and kind of, sorry, there's some construction in my house. You're gonna hear that, but you're gonna see this in China as they have basically very strict currency control in place in their country. So it's not so much that they're trying to stop the development of blockchain technology or stop the use of cryptocurrency. It's that they're trying to prevent people in China from being able to move large amounts of money out of China. The laws in China state that you cannot move more than $50,000 a year overseas, and that's for any Chinese citizen. So, of course, if you can use cryptocurrency exchanges, well, then you could move any amount of money anywhere you wanted. So that's why the government has a public policy of not having exchanges. But as you've seen with NEO and many other projects, there's actually a huge development community and lots of projects based off this technology in China. So I think China will continue to be, a center point of this. But as far as the actual volume on exchanges, actually most of it is in Korea and Japan. So I really don't think you're going to see too much difference as far as market volume in China goes.
Yeah, I agree with that. Question here, please explain a bit more on charts versus fiat and charts versus Bitcoin. And this is definitely a question I get asked a lot and that I see a lot of people asking also in our groups. So basically you have the US dollar pricing, like for example on CoinMarketCap, so it's priced over here in US dollars, but you also have the Bitcoin pairing pricing and the Ethereum based pricing. And basically the two things, or the two strategies behind it, there's not one right way to look at either or. Okay, it depends on your own personal strategy. So if you're in terms of fiat, if you're looking at the fiat prices of different cryptos, all right, that is a strategy that if you're putting in fiat, so US dollars, euros, whatever, into cryptocurrency to buy any altcoin, what you want to look for is the gain in dollar value if you plan on cashing out again. Because then it doesn't matter what the Satoshi price is, what the Bitcoin price is, etc. If you're going straight fiat into Bitcoin into whatever other cryptocurrency dash IOTA, and then the dollar amount increases and you cash it back out, then the Bitcoin price or the Ethereum price is merely just a medium, and it doesn't matter because you're going to increase your dollar holdings, okay, if that's what you're going for. If you're looking for a strategy where you're building your Ethereum or your Bitcoin stash, like let's say for example you believe Bitcoin is going to be around for the next 5 to 10 years, and all that you care about is acquiring more Bitcoin because you believe the price is going to go to $100,000, $500,000, $1 million, whatever, and you don't care about the fiat value of that Bitcoin, then you should measure in Satoshi value. So, like over here, like Ethereum, Bitcoin, right? If you can trade between different currency pairs and you can take advantage. So if you're trying to grow more Bitcoin or more Ethereum, you can see the price per Bitcoin of Ethereum fluctuates a lot, and you can continuously do swing trades, and swap your Bitcoin over for Ethereum when it's profitable, and then swap it back to Bitcoin to be able to get more Bitcoin if that's your strategy. Personally, I do still think everything in the real world works with fiat currency. Everything is still purchased with US dollars. So for me personally, I'm not 100% sure that Bitcoin is going to remain the dominant currency forever. And that's why I personally like the fiat value. Okay, for me it matters how much I put in and what my fiat value is at some point if I want to cash out, because yeah, you can. It's starting to be possible to buy houses and Lamborghinis and stuff with Bitcoin, and I guess that will continue to increase. But at the moment, for me, it still matters in terms of fiat value. So it really depends on your own strategy. There's different pros and cons. I don't know what you think about that, Derek.
Yeah, I would agree. I think you see a lot of people that kind of like make fun of people that like trade against the US dollar, or they say, like you should only focus on Satoshi value. But I am personally with you on the belief that I don't think, we can say with absolute certainty that Bitcoin's going to be, the dominant force in the market. In fact, I actually personally think Ethereum will surpass Bitcoin's market cap by the end of the year. But, who knows? We ultimately don't know. It's the first, but it may not, usually the first technology or offering in any market doesn't end up being the dominant one, right? So I think for the time being, and especially for most people that are just getting into investing in cryptocurrency, it's much easier to just focus on the US dollar amount. And then as you get comfortable trading, maybe you focus, like for me, a lot of times I will focus on the value against Ethereum. Because I trade a lot with ERC20 tokens, and since I have a lot of ERC20 tokens, their value against Ethereum is something I'm usually pretty interested in following. But ultimately, I usually just mostly just track the USD volume for now as well, for the reason that I just don't think we can say with absolute certainty, Bitcoin is going to be the dominant one, and we should just focus on getting more Satoshi value.
Yep. Les from Melbourne, my question is, with the fall in prices, do the previous calls that you made in the newsletter still apply, and how long should we still keep them? Yes, I mean, all the projects that we put in the newsletter, we actually research them in depth, and we make sure to choose projects that we believe have a long-term future. Okay, so they're not, or we try to choose them as not being short-term, just pure trades. We actually look at the tech behind them, the team behind them, the vision that they have, and the idea with a lot of them is that they're actually going to grow to be, real projects that are going to turn into real-world applications that are going to see a big ROI in their current price. So if there are any changes, we typically will put that in a future newsletter. If there are any revisions to coins we don't think are good anymore, or we'll put it in the announcement channel in the Telegram. So that's again why we research these cryptocurrency projects, so that we know they're solid projects, and for us personally, when they drop like this, it gives us an opportunity to buy more if it drops below our original entry point. What's going on with Tether? Derek, you want to answer this one?
Yeah, well, Tether is an interesting thing. There's well, basically, if you're not familiar with Tether, I'll just do a quick summary, which is basically that they are a cryptocurrency that is supposed to be backed dollar for dollar by actual USD deposited in a bank account. So whenever new Tether is created, there's supposed to be new Tether, added into Omni Group, which is the company that creates and manages Tether. And that's what they say. But if you look online and if you start researching the project, you will see a lot of different stuff out there. A lot of people will say it's a scam. If you can click on that actually transparency update right there, Diggy, that helps. That proof of funds. Yeah, so actually Tether did just release a lot of details. This is an audit report that they released that was auditing their cash and token balances as of September 15th, 2017. This is Friedman LLP, who did just actually they were just actually removed as the auditors or accountants for Tether. Tether says that's because they only have a Taiwanese bank account, so they can't really work with an American auditing firm anymore. I'm not certain on that, but on this specific document, you can see that at the time of September 28th, 2017, if you scroll down a little bit, Diggy, it's got the numbers on there. It shows their balances and their cash deposits. So basically, the FUD, or I guess just kind of uncertainty around this project, is they've been printing a lot of Tether. I think the market cap as of today is like, what, $2.something billion or something? 2.227. And actually, most of that Tether was printed after this date where they created this auditing. In fact, let me look at the map here. Yeah, so actually, it's kind of funny because right after this audit document was presented, they went from $400 million to $2.2 billion in just a month and a half here, or 2 months. So yeah, the fear of it is that they don't actually have this money that they say they have in their bank account, and if that's true and that were to come out, then there's a very good chance the value of Tether could go to nothing. And that's what people are worried about, that they're not actually backing this up dollar for dollar, and that at some point that's going to come to the surface. We're going to find out that that's not true, and then of course people are going to panic and start selling Tether. And being that this is supposed to be a stable coin, if everybody tries to sell it at once or cash out of it at once, it's we don't really know what the value is going to go to. So a lot of people will use Tether and they'll hold their they'll switch their Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever into Tether to hold it or try to maintain value during turbulent times in the market, like right now. Personally, I don't use Tether. I've never used it, and it's for the reasons that I just stated. I've never really had confidence in it, and I do see that they've released some more information, and I will dig into it more. But everything that I've seen, from my previous research into Tether has led me to feel not very confident in it. Personally, I keep my profits in either Ethereum or Bitcoin because, though the market value may fluctuate, and it does, it's a volatile market, I'm pretty positive that Bitcoin and Ethereum are going to be around in, a few years, whereas I'm not sure Tether is going to, and I'm not sure how Tether is actually working. I don't know if you've had any. Want to add to that?
No, I agree. I mean, I don't know what Tether is, and I don't use it because just there's a risk for it. So don't use Tether. I mean, I know the point of it is to be able to allow people to hop in and out of trades when the market dips. So for example, if Bitcoin is at 20,000 and you think it's going to dip, instead of withdrawing it to fiat, you can put it into Tether. The market can dip, you can hop back in, and you basically miss that drop or the gain or whatever it is. That's the theory behind it. But because of the risk of it, I would personally not use Tether at all. And if you want to do that strategy where you buy into crypto and you want to sell it because you think there's going to be a dip, again, that's very hard to time market. So that's not a strategy I would recommend. But in case you do want to do it, the best is probably to to put it into an actual exchange. For example, CoinSpot, Coinbase, Kraken, that allows you to turn your Bitcoin into fiat but keep it on that exchange. And obviously you don't want to do that for very long periods of time because it is still dangerous to keep money on an exchange, but that would be probably the best solution instead of using Tether. Yeah.
Natasha's saying she can't hear anything. I think it's going okay.
Yeah,
Let's see.
I think it should be fine. I asked her to rejoin the webinar. I think she should be okay. If any of you guys can't hear us, yep, people saying they can hear us. Are there any exchanges that accept Amex to buy crypto? Not that I know of, and I don't think you can buy crypto on any sort of credit card going forward pretty soon. They'll probably put an end to that. Right, so there's a bunch of questions. Do you see any, Derek, that you wanna take on?
Yeah, let me grab one of these ones here. So let's see, we've got.
What exchanges do we need for the next newsletter pick? Sammy, I'd honestly just recommend signing up for all the exchanges that are possible, even if you don't end up using them, because when you have them, you're able to use it like instantly, and just make sure they're all signed up. Make sure you put on your two-factor authentication, use an encrypted email address to sign up for them, just to be safe with that. And if there is any verification needed, you can do that ahead of time. There is a list of exchanges in the exchange tutorial. Just go and sign up for as many of them as possible. Binance, Cryptopia, Buybox. There's a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, we've got one from Brett here, and he's asking, for those new investors that have recently joined, are we best to hold off until buying into this market or buy in now? The thing that I always recommend, or that I use personally, is what's called dollar cost averaging. So basically, if you've got a set amount of money that you want to invest, say I want to invest $10,000 into Bitcoin, for example, what I would do is I would take a certain amount of that and I would use that, and then I would, over time buy in more, and that way you're not really focused on trying to hit the bottom or the top, because it's pretty much impossible to consistently or even frequently hit the tops or the bottoms of the market. If it was something we could do reliably, then we'd all be very, very wealthy, and actually the markets wouldn't work too well if there was, if everybody knew where the top and the bottom was going to take place. So as far as where the prices are at right now, I definitely think they're very, very low, and I think we have a great opportunity here in that I don't think we will see this low of prices again in the future. Now, does that mean it can't still go lower? Again, I'm not positive. There's no way for us to know for certain. I do think it could, personally, I think Bitcoin could go a little bit lower, maybe, I don't know, maybe 6K, but I don't see it going any lower than that. But again, there's no way to be absolutely certain. We can read the charts here, and, Diggy's got the charts up. He does a great job of reading them. And, he's pretty scarily accurate with his predictions. Actually, we're laughing about this all the time. About just how accurate to the dollar and to the day sometimes the predictions are. But again, this is just a tool that we have. So, there's no way for me to tell you, will it go lower, or will it go straight back up to 20K and then never go to this level again. So, I can tell you personally, I bought some more Bitcoin and, I bought some more crypto over the last couple of days, and I'm planning on getting some more. And, that's about all I can really say.
Awesome. Paul's asking, where are the tutorials? The tutorials are in the membership area, so in the Black Ops members area, and it's under the old crypto training area under the tutorials. We are still working on expanding that. We're building out a fast card guide. we'll be adding more documents and stuff like that over time. So bear with us. And obviously, if you guys have any suggestions or requests for anything, just put it in the Telegram feedback group. We try and keep that to feedback only for a reason, so that we can scroll back there and take your guys' feedback and suggestions and actually implement it as much as we can. How big is Lend and Key going to be in the near future? Shripra obviously we can't answer that. I'm personally a big fan of Lend. I think it is an amazing thing. It's pretty much the first of its kind. I know Salt was there before Lend, but Lend is definitely the first of its kind, being peer-to-peer. It has a functional product, and it's being used by a lot of people. The team is amazing. They have a Telegram group of over 18,000 people. The actual founder is personally responsive. I've chatted to him personally, and they're going to be launching a lot of new things over the coming months. One of the main and most important things is actually a user interface upgrade. So it's actually going to look decent, and it's going to be functional, because right now it's really hard to use. There's no filtering of loan contracts and all that kind of stuff. So I think as soon as that gets released and it gets more publicity and more attention, I think it's going to do very, very well, and I think it could actually be a multi-billion-dollar coin. Obviously, at the moment, it is down over 75% of the highs, just like a lot of the crypto markets are. So I think personally it is a really good buying opportunity. You can buy Lend on Binance, James.
Yeah, and the three of us have a whole lot of Lend between the three of us, so I think that kind of just says what we think about the future of it.
Yeah. Do you feel there's a better chance of making money with buying or holding, or looking at ICOs with an amount of about $5,000 to invest? Derek?
Yeah, I think, here's the thing about that. It's kind of it kind of goes two ways. I mean, as far as ROI potential goes, I don't think it's really. I guess I wouldn't say it's not possible, but as far as ROI goes, ICOs do typically tend to produce the best if you can get in early, and you can find the right projects. But there is, of course, a lot more risk in that, right? Like you just don't know. Yeah, you just don't know if you're going to pick a good ICO, and obviously you can do the research, and that's a big part of what I focus on and what a lot of us focus on. But, we can be pretty sure that Ethereum, for example, is going to continue to grow because, there's so much development, there's so many projects, there's so much going into it. So I would say, just as a general thing, would I make my portfolio 100% ICOs? Absolutely not. No way. I would only make ICOs a small, reasonable part of my portfolio, and only would I do that after I already had a strong, more, I guess, safe portfolio. Now, of course, crypto is very volatile, but again, we know that like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, for example, the big three ones that have been around for a while and they've consistently grown. Of course, there are pullbacks, there's corrections, but they are consistently, if you zoom out on a longer timeline, they've been growing consistently. So I would say, you need that foundational part of your portfolio before I would put too much focus on ICOs.
Yeah, and I see a bunch of questions coming in about ICOs. We do want to talk a bit more about it, but we'll leave that towards the end, just before we sign off, so we keep that all in one place. I just want to answer a few non-ICO questions here. Can we set? Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, can we set up an account for our 15-year-old son? Which exchange do you recommend? I don't actually know legally if you can do that, but the thing is, with the Binance
you just
account,
basically set it up under your name.
yeah, you can set it up under your name, or with a Binance account, it does not require KYC for the lowest tier. So I guess technically they could, but I don't know if that's legal. So you'd have to ask someone for that. Sorry guys, we're just scrolling through the webinars, or through the questions. We're still here.
Yeah, Ben's asking what's the best wallet to get. There's not necessarily a best wallet. This is one of those things that just kind of shows how early we are, and it's kind of one of those pain points in the industry right now is that there's not, just one easy, simple to use, safe wallet that, you can throw all of your cryptocurrency in. Hopefully that's coming sometime soon. I know there's a lot of different projects such as Pillar, and Engine, and a couple of others that are working on making really solid and safe wallets that are easy for all cryptocurrencies. But as of now, we don't have one. So, there's the hardware wallets, and I would recommend that you have a hardware wallet.
Still here, Derek? I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, sorry about that. I was talking, and I didn't know you didn't hear me. You can hear me now, right?
Yeah, everything's perfect. Sorry about that. Maybe it's my incident.
Okay. Oh, no problem. Yeah, so what I was saying is, with the wallets, I would definitely recommend getting a hardware wallet, especially as your portfolio grows in size. You just want to have a safe setup. Other than that, personally, I use Exodus a lot, and you can connect that with my Ethereum wallet. So then, of course, you can use all of your ERC20 tokens through that interface. Those are just the kind of wallets I use most frequently. But I guess there's no one answer for like what's the best wallet.
I'm seeing one here. So, what do you think is going to be what's going to happen to Bitcoin over the next 2 to 3 years? A lot of people seem to suggest it will be replaced by another cryptocurrency. So, obviously Bitcoin was the original. It is still the dominant cryptocurrency by market cap. The biggest problem that Bitcoin has is that it ran into the scaling issues, the high fees, and the long time of actually confirming the transactions. And while that is an issue right now, there is a possibility that the Lightning Network is going to solve all those problems. And if the Lightning Network comes out and it does that successfully, then there is a good chance Bitcoin can go enormously higher. And even if the Lightning Network is not successful, there's still a good chance that Bitcoin is going to grow a lot in value. There's a lot of really smart people and successful people that talk about Bitcoin going to 50,000 and higher this year. And also keep in mind, Bitcoin has the branding. When people talk about cryptocurrency, for the average person, the first thing that they think about is Bitcoin. Maybe Ethereum as a second, but it's basically Bitcoin. Okay? When you talk about, any other cryptocurrency, when you talk about NEO or OMG, like the average person who doesn't know anything about this, they won't have a clue what you're talking about. But when you mention Bitcoin, that is still, it's the branding. So when people buy crypto, I think a lot of people will still put money into Bitcoin, which should cause it to go higher over the long term, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
And does the price of Ethereum matter to buy altcoins? Again, that's coming back to the strategy. It depends on your strategy. If you just want to grow your Ethereum, then yes, the price matters. If you're just looking to grow your ultimate fiat holdings, then the price doesn't really matter too much. Then what you should be looking at is the price of the altcoin in fiat price.
Right, and so you also need to look. So personally, I always trade using Ethereum. On the exchanges themselves, they'll have Bitcoin pairs and Ethereum pairs, and some of them will have Litecoin pairs as well. So being that I only buy Bitcoin to hold on to it, I don't do anything with my Bitcoin. It just sits in my wallet, mostly because of the fees and how slow it is. So when I buy Ethereum, I am paying attention to the value that it's trading against other specific tokens that I want to get. Because sometimes you will see a price discrepancy on the Bitcoin pair versus the Ethereum pair. So sometimes the price is slightly different depending on what you're trading. But that also kind of is because of what I mentioned with the limitations or the problems in the Bitcoin market, being that it's expensive and slow. Typically, it'll be a little bit cheaper for you to trade using the Ethereum pair. So yeah, I think that's the main thing to focus on is just the value that it's trading at the time that you're looking to make that trade.
Yeah, and just again, guys, this is being recorded, so if you do feel you need to leave, we're just here to provide as much value to you guys as possible. Again, you'll be able to watch the replay if you feel you need to go somewhere. We have just touched an hour. We'll probably be here for another 30 minutes, maybe another hour, who knows. We're just here to help you guys out. Yeah, let me find some more questions.
What type of email do you think is the most secure? Patrick's asking. Patrick, I'd recommend using protonmail.com. It's an encrypted email service, and I think you're probably asking because you may want to set that up with exchanges or anything like that. I would recommend using a specific email, Proton Mail, for any cryptocurrency exchange or anything related to crypto. I would not use your regular email at all. Most people use Gmail, and I definitely wouldn't use any kind of email that's connected to your social profiles like Facebook or anything else, because that's unfortunately how a lot of phishing scams happen. So yeah, that's definitely the most secure way to go about it. Encrypted email services, they don't actually, even on the company themselves, don't have access to your emails. So that's one important thing to notice.
Absolutely. I need a better understanding how to manage and log all my trades for tax time ATO, as I can see this starting to get very messy. I don't know which country that's from, so
yeah, just as far as the software goes, you can check cointracking.info. That's the most robust one that actually will prepare tax reports for you. So that can be helpful when you can just give it to your accountant. But other than that, it is kind of difficult. So I think I'd look into that software, and then you basically just print out a report and hand it over to your accountant, and then they can take care of that kind of stuff for you.
ATO is Australian Tax Office. Yeah, thanks.
Right. Yeah.
For helping us out. Mitch would have probably been able to answer that, but he's on the plane.
Real quick, Alan's asking, so FLend or LendConnect? Alan, LendConnect is another one of these Ponzi schemes, like BitConnect, whatever other connects there are out there. Be very careful when you're doing research. Anything that is out there and they're promising you some kind of guaranteed daily payouts, there's a pretty high chance it's not legit. And I know for a fact that LendConnect definitely is not legit. Also, when you're looking at these websites, LendConnect's a good example. If you go on there and you check it out, you'll see that there's no information about who owns the company. There's no developers, there's no CEO, there's no about us, there's nothing, right? So
any sort of,
be very aware of that.
Yeah, any sort of lending program. So again, here's an example: Devor coin, Devor.io. It's basically the one that all the scammers jumped to promoting after BitConnect imploded. And I think it's called the Texas Securities Exchange. They've issued a cease and desist against this. Basically, this one is even worse. They I don't even know where it says on the website, but they're basically promising like 2% a day over here. Oh, here we go. You can see here, you can put in, if you put in $25,000, you're going to get your initial capital back after 89 days, and you're making whatever, 2% per day. Monthly interest rate up to 48%. That's just, like, if you see that, that's just a scam. Like, straight up, there's no way that's sustainable. So anything that you see that's like this, guys, stay away from it. And if anyone recommends this to you, just, slap them and tell them. Don't actually slap them, but, inform them that it is actually a scam. So.
Raja's asking again about it was cointracking.info is the software that I'm talking about. If you just search up coin tracking, you'll find it as well. It is a paid version. It's a paid software in order to get it to connect with the API, but that API will actually just pull all of your data right out of the exchanges, so that way you don't actually have to manually enter in all of your trades and everything that you do. Jenny's asking, do you know of USI Tech? Same thing we're talking about here. USI Tech is another one of these kind of schemes promising daily returns on investment. It's something you definitely want to stay away from.
Exactly.
They also got hit with a cease and desist in Texas as well, and they have recently shut down their services to Americans and Canadians. They are still open, but you know, if you hear those kind of things, it should definitely make you alarmed because there's a reason why they're just, you know, not allowing Americans or Canadians to invest anymore because the governments are starting to go after them.
Yeah, absolutely. And just coming back on USI Tech, and we'll leave it at that, is anything that has a multi-tier referral system, so where you get paid to refer other members who make deposits, and you get paid on the members that those members refer, and you know that can go up to 12 layers deep. Anything that has something like that, just stay far away from it. Even if there's a small, tiny little chance that it might actually be legit, most of the time it won't be, and you should absolutely stay away from that.
Absolutely. Yeah, where did I see? Arden asked what we see the total market cap looking like by the end of the year.
Yeah,
I mean, personally, I think it's hard to say. I think, you know, we almost hit $1 trillion on the last run-up, and I think after we get a period of correction here and the market regains its, you know, bullish trend. Right now we're in a bearish trend, so, you know, what we see here is you know, probably as low as it's going to go, or maybe a little bit lower. But then from there, I do think personally we'll go up over that $1 trillion mark on the next big run-up, whether that's in, you know, March or April or maybe towards the middle of the summer. I don't know about the exact timeline, but I do think we will see definitely over $1 trillion market cap and possibly significantly higher than that in this year.
Yeah, I think so too. Question regarding the EOS token registration. I know I've been getting a few questions about this. I basically have EOS. I have not registered them yet myself. So what I'll do is I'll make a step-by-step tutorial when I register my own tokens for you guys, and I will upload that to the members area so that you know you can easily copy that. The ICO period only ends, I think, in June this year, so we still have a fair amount of time, so you don't need to be too worried. I will make that tutorial.
Is Mu Wallet safe, or is it better to store in hardware wallet like Trezor? Mu is safe, but you actually can connect Mu to your Trezor or to your Nano S, and that just gives it a second layer of safety. Basically, the way it would work is, you know, you use the Mu interface on your browser to send the transaction, but then you need to sign it on your hardware device. So it's just basically 2 layers of protection. The only insecurity, if you will, with the Mu system is that, you know, if you enter in your private key through your browser, it's possible that that could get, you know, phished, or you know, somebody could have a keylogger on your computer. So that's why you add the additional security on top of that, which would be the hardware wallet, or also you can use MetaMask, which is a browser application that will make you even more secure.
Yeah, Jenny's asking, do we short cryptos as well, like Forex? It is possible. We don't do it. We don't trade with leverage, and we don't day trade, simply because the odds are against you. The statistics of being successful at day trading and shorting and working with leverage is minimal, and you know, 9 out of 10 people, if not more, are going to end up losing money in the long run. So, you know, people always try and tell me this, and they think, yeah, but I can do it, I can learn, I can. Like, the statistics are against you. It's not based on my opinion, not based on my emotion, nothing. Just purely math, purely statistics. Out of a large sample size, the majority are going to lose money. All right. So why would you want to try and go against those odds? Really, take it from us. It's just really based on experience.
Yeah, and with the way these markets move, either up or down, as we've all seen, it's just if you're shorting or even if you're going long with leverage, you know, the chances of your position getting wiped out and you just losing all of your capital are quite high. So personally, you know, I think there's so much potential for profit just buying low and selling high in this market that I would not ever touch leverage in the cryptocurrency markets. Let's see what else we got here. Yeah, questions on the email form. We are going through them as well. Somebody's asking about that. Let me grab a few from here. Let's see.
We've actually answered a lot from the form already, and some of them have automatically been answered as we've been answering other people's questions too. have a look and see if you find it in there.
Troy asks, just wondering how you guys use profits on coins, reinvest in others, let it ride, or withdraw for that Lambo. No Lambos for me yet. I don't think there's any Lambos for Diggy yet either. But yeah, personally, I've talked about it before. But my strategy or my outlook in this type of investing is definitely long term. And when I say long term, I mean like 3 to 5 years down the line. I very strongly believe that we're super early to this. So when times come like this, when we're down, I may be down on some of my positions 30, 40, 50%. I'm not stressed, I'm not worried, because my intention is not to get rich tomorrow, right? So when I do take profits, I think the same way. So what that means is I don't take my profits and put it into cash or fiat, if you will. I don't take my profits and buy any fancy watches or cars or anything else. When I take profit out of a trade, I typically move it into either Ethereum or Bitcoin to hold on to it for the long term, or I will take that and at that moment I will move it into another undervalued coin that I'm looking to purchase. So typically, that's a two-step thing. So I'll first need to trade it for Ethereum, and then I can trade that Ethereum for whatever else that I want. And that's typically how I handle my profits.
Absolutely. The next coin recommendations, Adam, are coming out on the 10th. We release our newsletter on the 10th of each month. So that's actually in less than a week. So good news. It's always exciting. EOS, yes, what are our thoughts on EOS? So obviously we mentioned EOS in one of the earlier newsletters. We actually did talk about it a bit more recently. I think EOS is going to do very well. It's still in the ICO phase. It's basically going to be a platform that allows a lot of other things to be built on it in a more efficient way if it goes as is being promised, and it could end up doing very well. You can see Ethereum is the original platform. It's still the second biggest by market cap. NEO is another similar platform that's working its way up. You can see over here it's 8th by market cap at the moment, and I think actually NEO is going to end up going into the top 5, maybe even the top 3, based on the amount of things that are happening with it and the amount of projects being launched in it. So very favorable on EOS. What is leverage trading? I know you said not to do it, Brad. don't do it, but I'll just explain for anyone who doesn't know what leverage trading is. It's basically exactly what it says, the word leverage. So you use what you have to be able to get more. So basically you're able to put in your $1,000 and you're able to trade with the leverage of say 100 to 1, meaning that instead of actually getting the gains on $1,000, so if you make a 10% gain on $1,000, $100, you can actually leverage that $1,000 and trade as if you had $100,000. So that way, if you get 10% gain, instead of making $100, which is 10% on 1,000, you could make $10,000, right? Because that's 10% of the 100,000. But in the same way, if it moves against you, it only needs to move against you by 1%, and you lose your initial $1,000. So it's a very double-edged sword, and it can work against you, but also for you. But most of the time, it works against you. So don't do it.
Yeah. Ralph here asks, in your signals telegrams, you have the exchanges in brackets. Is that because they offer the best buy price? That's a good question. It's just that's the exchange that we actually did the transaction on. So I'm not, usually we use the biggest exchange or just the one we're most comfortable trading on. At least, when I do my buy orders, I try, primarily, I personally love to just trade on Binance all the time if it was possible, because I'm just a big fan of Binance. But, there's certain coins that open up on smaller exchanges, and, you may only be able to get it one place, but that's the specific reason why we list the exchange, so that you guys actually know where we got it from.
Absolutely. Can I place a trade today to buy Bitcoin at 6K and sell at 7K without having to monitor the trade? Yeah, that's basically placing a limit order. I don't work with those. I believe you can do it on exchanges. I haven't even actually ever attempted to do this. I think you can do it on Binance, and you can simply place a limit order, which means that you can place an order to sell your position or a part of your position when the price hits a certain point, and if the market hits that, it will be executed automatically, as far as I know, right, Derek?
Yeah, definitely. So Binance just recently added the limit orders, but they do have them now, and most of the bigger exchanges will have them. So it does kind of let you try to attempt to get Bitcoin at 6K. The thing about that is, it may only flash crash for usually you get a flash crash, right? So basically, like it'll drastically hit a drastic low for a matter of maybe a few seconds sometimes. So the chances of you getting your limit order filled are pretty low, but you can definitely put them in there and try, because sometimes they do actually get filled. You just need to make sure you have fiat in there and have a position open and ready to go.
Absolutely. Top 10 coins in our opinion. Basically, we love the coins we put into the newsletters, so we're grateful on that. And obviously, we can't make a list of 10 coins right now on the webinar. But one thing I will say is I personally think that platform coins are going to do very well this year, and also coins that have an actual real-world project. So platform coins, Ethereum, Neo, Icon, EOS, things like that. Examples of a real-world project is something like Lend or Salt. They're already working, and something that has actual real-world something in the world that's actually functional and can have users. That's something that's likely to do well also.
Yeah. Wait. Oh yeah, Tony. Here we go. Tony asked, I am not clear on the best strategy to take. I think that it is good to have a long-term view about investing, 6 to 12 months. However, when I see the prices falling, isn't it a good idea to cash in on crypto and buy in again when the prices stop falling? I'll just say my 2 cents about that, and I'll let you follow up as well, because you've been trading for a lot longer than I have, Diggy. But I would say there's a saying called that goes like, don't try to catch falling knives, I think is what it is. And that's basically what you're doing, right? You're trying to catch falling knives, because if you start panicking and trying to sell, and the idea is, of course, it makes sense. You sell and then you rebuy at the bottom, but the unfortunate part about it is the reality is you don't know where the bottom is. In fact, you might actually be selling at the bottom, and then you're going to have to rebuy back at a higher price. So there's risk on both sides, right? You ultimately have to determine for yourself. I can't tell you when a good time to buy or sell is, but in my own personal trading, what I do is I don't attempt to ever do this, because everything in my portfolio, everything that I buy, I have a long-term strategy for. I believe in it as a project. I think it will grow in value over time. So me trying to sell it and then trying to buy it back later is not something I think is a good idea. What I will do if the prices do go down like they are right now is I'll go ahead and add more fiat in. I'll strengthen my position that way and hopefully bring my dollar cost average down. But I will never try to sell in a down market like this. It's just not something that I think is a good strategy for my own trading or investing.
Yep, I absolutely agree. I mean, we've kind of said the same thing already with the no day trading, no leveraging, no shorting. And the best thing is to get in a market or project early and hold it. That's what I'm personally doing. And I'm not looking to cash out possibly for the next 1 to 3 years, depending on how the crypto market develops, of course, and how everything goes. But I think we've got a long way up. I think, personally for me, I'm looking at a target of 10 trillion as overall market cap, which right now is probably something, how far is that? It's probably like 25x.
Almost.
Yeah.
Yeah,
about 25x higher market cap. So that's just me personally. Okay, obviously the money I have put into crypto is not money that I'm relying on or counting on in any way, shape, or form, and that's just my personal strategy. We've been getting a lot of questions, guys, about ICOs throughout the whole webinar so far. So we want to address the ICO thing a bit. I said we would keep that for later, just to be able to do it. So basically, ICOs, initial coin offering, it's a way for projects and individuals and people to raise money without having to give up any equity. It's basically venture capitalism. And there's a huge amount of ICOs coming out. So I'm obviously going to let Derek speak a little bit about this because he's doing most of the ICOs. But there's a huge potential for ROI on projects that you get in early. So for example, if you had gotten into anything in the ICO phase in the last year, even Ethereum, if you got a Neo, if you got an ARC OMG in the ICO phase, the ROI, some of them are absolutely phenomenal. But there's also plenty of projects in the ICO phase, and this is happening more and more, where they're actually like outright scams, okay? And this is becoming a lot more frequent, and it's actually a little bit worrying. So, for example, here's one. So the B token, basically their Telegram was hacked, and they gave out false Ethereum deposit information, and basically people lost millions of dollars was sent to fake Ethereum. There's another one here, Seal. This was another recent one. So, for example, Seal ICO Act. So basically, there were actually people on the Seal admin team, members of the project, who went into the Telegram, and they were sending people their own Ethereum addresses that had nothing to do with the ICO. $2 million worth of Ether was scammed, right? So there is a lot of risk here, and you have to be very, very careful. Actually, people I've personally known have gotten scammed purely because of their trusting, goodwill, and they think that everyone is good. And absolutely, you have to be super careful with this. Never click links on an email. Never send to a random address of someone you don't know, unless it's vetted by someone, right? If you know the person personally, or you know someone on the team, or anything like that, there's a good chance that it's going to be okay. But if you don't know the people and they're randomly, even if it's an official Telegram team and they're giving you an Ether address, like that's risky, you know. Derek, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about ICOs. Still here? I think we lost you.
Hello?
Derek messaged me. They knocked his power out. Okay, so I'll keep talking a little bit. Basically, ICOs, so we are focusing on ICOs, but we've consciously chosen inside the Black Ops community and inside our newsletter to stay away from ICOs because of the risk involved in them, and because we feel there's a lot of people inside the Black Ops membership that don't have that high risk tolerance. Yeah, we haven't done any vetting in terms of who has money available to risk, and what are the risk allocations. So we don't want to pass that risk on to you in any way. We do have the unofficial Telegram group with for the ICOs, for Black Ops, and I think most of you will be in that. If you're not in that, it is in the pin post in the general in the general chat group in the pin post there, and you guys can join into that. Now, one thing that's also been happening, and I know Derek's going to talk about that in a second when he hops back in, is that basically ICOs are starting to get bought out very, very quickly. All right, so whereas usually there was a public ICO where you can go in and you can contribute to the crowd sale, what's happening now is that the popular ICOs are actually getting sold out in a matter of minutes, literally. And on top of that, the contribution, so you have to get on the whitelist, the contribution per person, whereas in the past it might have been 10 Ether or 50 Ether or 100 Ether or no cap. Right now, we're actually seeing popular ICOs getting a cap of like 2 Ether, 0.2 Ether, 0.2 Ether, which is like $200 per person, right? Because there's tens of thousands of people buying up ICOs. So that's another risk. Like a lot of them you can't even get in anymore, which is another reason why we don't recommend it like this. The only way that we see that ICOs are still going to be effective is in a kind of pre-ICO phase, so private sales. So that's if you can make deals with the ICO founders or with the company, if you know anyone on the team, if you have connections of a special bonus or something happening like that, where you can get in advance with enough cap, so that you're able to put in enough money to be able to not just get 0.2 Ether, where you can get 10 or 50 or 100 Ether. And the only way this really works is typically if you have huge amounts of capital available, and this can only happen if one, you're very rich and you have a lot of capital to put in yourself, or if you're part of a group buy or conglomerate and you kind of pool money together to be able to come up with a few 100,000 or maybe $1 million or 2 million. That's the kind of money that's needed for the teams and ICOs to be able to pay attention, to be able to say, okay, we'll make a deal with you guys because you can deliver $500,000 or $1 million or $2 million, and that way they can actually, sell out their soft cap before they even do an ICO. And you might have seen it actually if you're involved with ICOs. A lot of ICOs actually cancel their public crowd sales simply because they're actually privately funded. So one of the examples of that recently was Theta token. They were supposed to do a public crowd sale, and they actually canceled it because they already met their cap requirements um, privately, and they don't want the risk involved. Because when they do a crowd sale and they're getting tens of thousands, maybe thousands, tens of thousands of people involved in that crowd sale, what's happening there is it's an increased risk, because if something goes wrong, or if people start a class action lawsuit, or they have this responsibility and this liability to all these different investors, they'd much rather go with a smaller group that maybe they know or that they can deal with privately. It reduces the risk on their part, and probably the admin and stuff also. I think Derek's back.
Absolutely. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. They actually cut my power off here while they were doing some construction downstairs. But yeah, I heard you kind of zeroing in on what I think is. I saw some questions about, like, what do people think the futures of ICOs are going to look like? And I definitely think that we're going to see a lot of changes in the industry over the next several months because of stuff like this with the B token, and also with Dottie and other issues. It's just kind of a very young industry, and there's not a lot of good policies in place for how to do these crowd sales. So I think you'll see better solutions. But I also think, based off of kind of what Diggy was just saying there with the private funding, I think we're going to actually see less crowd sales. And I think, by the end of the year, we may not even really see too many of them at all, because it is a lot of work and there is a lot of risk with trying to raise money from thousands or tens of thousands of people all around the world. So I think it's going to become a lot more important getting into the pre-sales, and maybe soon a lot of these ICOs are only going to be doing private pre-sales instead of the big public sales.
Yeah, and Allison's actually asking, is there any way for us to get into the pre-sale we're talking about? So that kind of brings me to, we were going to mention this. So basically we have a separate high-end mastermind we call the Secret Society, and we've decided to keep our ICOs, our pre-sale ICOs and everything limited to that. So the Secret Society is basically a group for high levels, anyone who's interested in ICOs. One of the core benefits of what we're doing there, besides more personal attention and a higher level of people invested into cryptocurrency, is also that we're looking for pre-sale ICOs. So what we're doing is, at the minimum, we're doing one private pre-sale ICO where we vet projects, and through our connections, our relationships, and the pool that we have. Okay, so currently we have about, I think, between 25 and 30 people inside the Secret Society Mastermind, and that allows us access to capital, to pooling money together, like I talked about, that we're able to get these deals. And what we're looking for is good bonus deals, so anywhere from 30% all the way up to 100% bonus on pre-ICO deals. So that means, whereas in the public phase, where even in a normal ICO you might only be able to get, say, the regular 100% of tokens, but in this case we get 130 to maybe even 200% tokens for the same amount of money through the pre-sale. We try and vet it, and one of the big things is also we try and avoid these scams. Right? We try and make deals with people that we've met in person or through relationships, connections that one of the three of us personally has, and that's not saying that we're never going to get scammed. Okay, ICOs can be scammy, but things like this, where you're just sending Ethereum to a random address in a Telegram group of someone you don't know and you don't know anything on the team, that does require a lot more risk. And when we know the people personally, I think it does reduce the risk significantly. So if you are interested, okay, the Secret Society Mastermind, we do accept applications for that still. We are actually going to be increasing the price over time. So if you want to check that out, keys2freedom.com, Secret-Society Mastermind. I'll actually put that in the chat, and I'll probably put it below in the replay. You can just go and check this out. We're not here to try and sell this to you guys at all. In fact, this is probably not for most people. We do have some strict requirements with offers. Everything here is on the page, and you will need to fill out an application and see if you're a right fit for that. So if you are interested, you can check that out. Back to ICOs. Derek, is there anything else that you want to mention?
Yeah, I think just with the pre-sales, because a lot of people ask about that, the thing with the private pre-sales are, and this is one of the main benefits of what we're doing with the Secret Society, is you really do need a pool of people. Because in these private pre-sales, they're looking to raise significant amounts of capital. So it's not like a public crowd sale where you can just put in like, I think a lot of them now, the minimum is like zero point 0.1 Ethereum, which is, roughly $100. But for a private pre-sale, minimums are typically $20,000, $50,000, $100,000. I've seen some with like, 200, 300,000 minimums. So obviously, most people are not going to put that into one ICO by themselves, no matter how much capital they have. So you typically are investing as a group, and that's really the key if you want to get into the private pre-sales. It's not something that they're going to allow you as just a private individual with just, a few $1,000s to invest, because since they're doing KYC and a lot of research, I guess on the people that are investing early on, they also want to limit the risk of getting someone that maybe might buy all of their tickets or all of their tokens and then just like immediately dump them on the exchange. So typically they want groups of investors that are serious about the project, that believe in the project, and that want to invest in the project for the long term as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So guys, if you have any questions about the ICOs, and yes, Sherry, it's not for everyone. Like I said, it's definitely not for everyone. It's not for most people. But if you do want that option, we do have it available. Like genuinely, we're just here to answer your questions, and we're not here to try and pitch you on that or sell you that.
Yeah, I would say on just to kind of go in with that as well, I don't think it's really the smartest thing to do to invest in ICOs until you have a significant amount of capital in crypto. So that's kind of one of the reasons why it is expensive. You do need a good amount of capital, a pretty significant amount, in my opinion, in order to start being involved in the higher risk situations that ICOs provide. Again, I talked about it a little bit earlier, but if you're putting your first couple $1,000s into crypto, I would not recommend starting with ICOs. I would go the safer, tried and tested route first of investing in projects that have been around and have a history, and more of a stability to them than these brand new projects.
Absolutely. Gazim, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Apologies if I'm not. Can you please talk about the Sydney conference? What do you want us to say about the Sydney conference? We've announced the dates on the 7th and 8th of April, and we'll release further details probably later this month regarding the venue and the schedule and what's to be expected.
It's going to be fun, I'll tell you that. We're working on a lot behind the scenes, but we just can't announce all of the details yet. But we wanted to get the date out there as quickly as possible so you guys could make plans and book hotels or whatever you need to take care of to be there. So it will be the 7th and 8th of April, and we've got some awesome guests, but we can't release too much more just yet.
Absolutely. Quick question, can you highlight the main differences between the Secret Society and Black Ops Signals? There's a lot of information on the page, Will, so that's keystoFreedom.com. You can actually type in /mastermind, and it will redirect you to the page also. But basically, one of the main benefits is obviously the level of access of the members that you get to. So they're all pre-vetted, they all meet these requirements of having minimal capital amount. Actually, a lot of people in there are very high net worth individuals, so that gives you that access to those kind of people. One of the things is, of course, the ICO pre-sales that we try and arrange for you that we don't do anywhere else, and that just stays within the mastermind. A lot of them are actually even deals that other people won't be able to get publicly. It's simply because of our connections. Mitch knows people, I know people, Derek knows people, and also we'll be going to as many conferences and events as we can regarding crypto and trying to organize these special deals. For example, the deal we did for January with the ICO, I'm not going to mention which one it was, but it was actually because Mitch and I were at a block show in Singapore, a conference there. We actually met the founders of the project, we talked to them, we know them, and that's how that came about, and that's how we were able to secure that deal. So that's kind of what we're doing for you, and that's what you get access to as part of that. And another thing is we'll actually be doing at least one in-person private meetup, where we organize that. So we're actually planning to do that in May or June. It's going to be the official one for Secret Society, where we're actually going to go and meet up. The plan is in Phuket in Thailand. We're going to get a sick villa. There may or may not be a yacht. We're going to go all out with food and just great service and just hanging out for 2 or 3 days talking crypto. Maybe even get some speakers and things like that. So there's definitely a lot of benefits to that compared to Black Ops.
Yeah, definitely. A few more questions on the conference here. I'll just kind of summarize it. So, hold on, let me scroll up. Christine, I think, was it asked? Start time is useful to know for flights to Sydney or not. So, Christine, just plan on all day, the 7th and the 8th. It'll be pretty much an all day long conference. We'll give you the exact start time. But another question, Matthew, on that. If we can't make it to the April conference, will we be able to go to another one? Yeah, we'll switch your tickets out for another one of our events. We don't have exact dates, but there are some other things being planned right now. The conference will be recorded, Helen. We're going to try to figure out if we can live stream it somehow, but it'll definitely be recorded for the members. So if you can't make it, you will have access to that. I think that's everything for the questions. Likely to be near Sydney CBD. I'm pretty positive. We'll give you 100% confirmation of the venue, but I don't think it'll be out in the middle of nowhere or anything. We're working on a couple different places that we're zeroing in on.
Yeah, guys, we really can't. We don't want to say anything because we still have to find the best option. We do have a 2 or 3 that we're currently looking at and negotiating for. So we will release those details as soon as we have them. Christine, 8 or 9 a.m. 8 a.m. might be a bit early, but just keep it in mind.
Namesh, regarding the partner ticket, if you could actually email support@keystoFreedom.com, because we have our staff sorting out all the tickets and everything, so I want to make sure that gets taken care of for you. Just go ahead and mention that you subscribe and you have a partner ticket, and we'll get that sorted for you.
Yeah, exactly, guys. Any questions you have that are important related to the event or to your account or anything, please just email support. That's where we get that taken care of. Also, guys, there's still a lot of you here on the webinar, so thank you for your time. I hope you're getting a lot of value out of this. We're happy to stay on a little bit longer. It is being recorded, so it will get added to the members area. If you have any questions that you still want to answer, drop them in the chat box. Otherwise, we'll probably end up wrapping this up pretty soon. We'll stay around for maybe another 10-15 minutes, answer some questions, and then we'll do this again in the future. You guys seem to enjoy it.
Definitely. Yeah, Joshua, you're saying in your buy signals, when you say 2% of holdings, is that the amount of your holdings you have invested in the token? Exactly. And that's at that moment. So do keep in mind, as the values of each of our tokens rise and fall in the market and everything, that amount of the portfolio is constantly changing. So that's something we've gotten questions about before. It's just it's not always exactly the same percentage. Of course, we're buying and selling, and the markets are changing in value from time to time. But yeah, at the time we put out the buy signal, when we put that into the chat, you are seeing at that time what percentage of the portfolio it is that we're holding.
Yeah, absolutely. And once again, it's our personal percentage holdings. It's not saying that you should have those same percentages. It's not saying that you should even own that same cryptocurrency. It's personally just what we're doing, and we just want to be transparent and share that with you guys. And you can choose whether you want to model that or not.
Yeah, Troy, what do you guys use to keep track of your portfolio? I pretty much use Blockfolio primarily. I do use some spreadsheets to keep track of trades that I've made and other things like that, but I primarily just rely on Blockfolio.
Yeah, same. Will we still be launching our own exchange? Mitch is currently involved with an exchange, and he will release details on that as soon as he has them. And for the rest, again, also, if we end up doing anything, we will release details as we have them. Thanks, Jenny. Enjoy dinner.
Thank you, Jenny.
Guys, let's take 3 more questions, and then we'll wrap it up. So if you have any more questions, drop them in the chat box. We'll do 3 more. We'll wrap it up, and then you can see the recording in the members area if you want.
Previously, I noticed that the US versus AU spread on exchanges went up to $3K for Bitcoin and several $100s for ETH, but now notice the spread has disappeared. Why do you guys think this has happened? Bilal, this is interesting. I've also noticed the same thing here in Thailand. On the Thai exchanges, it's typically significantly more expensive to buy Bitcoin or Ethereum. And then I noticed in this last bear trend, this last bear market, that I actually the other day got a better deal here in Thailand than on the American exchanges. So I'm thinking that, you know, in the bull markets, you're going to see those spreads. You're going to see that kind of difference because most of the volume is happening in USD. So just based off of supply and demand, the price can be a little bit higher where there's less volume. But when that volume goes down or is maybe a little more level, because you know there's not as much people buying in the bear market as there are selling, if you will. So I think that's kind of just getting rid of those arbitrage opportunities. I would imagine we'll prove my theory correct or not in the next bull market. We'll see if those come back. But I think that's what's happening from what I've been seeing on my side.
Yeah. In fiat value, how much money do you think is safe to keep on exchanges? Richard, I think any amount of money that you keep on an exchange is at risk, so you have to be 100% comfortable with that. I would personally also suggest if you do that and you understand it's money that you can afford to lose and it is at high risk, also spread it out over multiple exchanges. Like the more risk you can reduce in any way possible, the better it is to do. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think if you're not actively trading, then there's no reason to keep something on an exchange. But I realize that saying that, you know, it's kind of hard to follow those policies because sometimes when you want to make a trade, it takes time for your crypto to get to an exchange. So one of the ways that I've kind of dealt with that issue for myself, and is one of the reasons why I don't use Bitcoin to trade anymore, is because it's just too slow. So I typically, if I'm trying to make a trade very quickly, I will send Litecoin to an exchange, and then I will switch that to Ethereum, and then make my trade. Because Litecoin is pretty much instantaneous. Ethereum is usually very fast, but sometimes when there's big ICOs or, you know, CryptoKitties or one of these other events, Ethereum can slow down as well. But yeah, you just gotta realize anything on an exchange is at risk, no matter how, you know, how safe or secure the exchange is. If you don't have control of the private keys, then there's always a risk, whether it's large or small, you know. Josh says, most people, including yourselves, are saying you are not selling anything yet. Is there a price where you would consider to start selling? It's a good question, Josh. Maybe like $1 million Bitcoin? I don't know. No, I mean, I can't answer that with 100% certainty about a price. It's going to be for me more based off of, do I think we're reaching a saturation or like a peak of the market? And Diggy and I were talking about this before. We said, you know, like when your grandma is buying like Bitcoin at the supermarket or something, right? Like when it's absolutely everywhere, and when it's just like, yeah, just like at every level of society. And totally part of everyone's day-to-day life. At that point, it's probably going to be at like a crazy value, and at that point, I'd probably be looking to sell myself. But again, I think we're very, very far off from that. So that's why right now I just say 3 to 5 years. It's not that I have like a specific dollar value that I want my projects to reach. It's just that I need to feel like that they've kind of hit my long-term targets and growth.
Absolutely. So with a mid 5-figure allocation to crypto, how many coins would you look to hold? Personally, I'd like to have a minimum of 10 coins, probably closer to 20, just because I do believe in that diversification. I would not put all my eggs in a single basket, and I think there's a lot of cryptocurrencies that are going to do very well, in the same sense as there's a lot of, for example, just technology companies. Okay, there's not just one that does well, there's dozens and dozens that have done very well. So personally, I'd say a minimum of 10, probably more like 20.
Yeah, my problem personally is there's too many of them that I want. I can't keep up. I think, you know, having a good foundation, maybe, you know, 20 to 30% of a portfolio in the safer cryptos, you know, like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and then maybe the rest of it, depending on your level of risk, can be the other projects. But I've seen a lot of people that go like they don't want Bitcoin or Ethereum because they're just looking to catch like the next the next Bitcoin or whatever you want to call it. And I think personally I personally don't think that's a very good strategy. I think you should be more diversified, as Derek said, and definitely focus on projects that are building good applications and actual software and things like that that have a future rather than just whatever the new hyped project is.
You can't actually trade on exchanges with Litecoin. So if we're sending if we're sending Litecoin, it basically means we're just sending it from cold storage to the exchange. You have to convert it into either Ethereum or Bitcoin, and then you can trade it for the pairs. Maybe in future, maybe hopefully this year, we will get Litecoin pairings, which would be really awesome. I actually think this is a good possibility, which would really skyrocket the price of Litecoin, in my opinion. But for now, there's no Litecoin pairings.
Yeah, LB asked about that. So LB, that's literally exactly what I do. I just send Litecoin to Binance, and then Binance does have a Litecoin to Ethereum pair, and so you just switch Litecoin to Ethereum, and then Binance has like a couple hundred Ethereum pairs, so you can trade for pretty much everything on there. Are we at a disadvantage having ICOs in the oven with Ethereum price? Good question, Daz. And yeah, that's one of those things where it's just kind of something you gotta, I guess, kind of deal with. Sometimes, the price of Ethereum goes down while you're waiting for your ICO to hit the exchanges. Sometimes it goes up. Unfortunately, there's really no way to tell. So usually I just kind of think about like what the US dollar amount was for the token when I purchased it, and then I kind of hope, that I get a better return when it hits the exchanges. It's just, there's really no way around it, right? Because you are trading Ethereum for another token, and since Ethereum is a token in and of itself, it's going to have, consistently different prices based off of what the market's doing. So, yeah, I guess there's no real way around that. Some ICOs do accept fiat, though, but very, very few, and usually it's kind of difficult to get them the fiat.
Yep. Thank you, Carrie. Appreciate that.
Is it reasonable to consider the fact that my portfolio value in Bitcoin is about the same while the fiat is going crazy as evidence that my alt picks are not too terrible? Good question, Michael, and actually I was just thinking about that earlier. I'm glad you brought that up. I looked at my portfolio, and the US dollar amount is down significantly. It's not pretty right now. But actually my Bitcoin value is basically exactly the same. So that's a really interesting thing that you just brought up. I think you should pay attention to that when we're down in the market like this and your USD value is significantly down. It's good to think about the fact that you still have the same amount of crypto you had before. So you didn't technically lose anything, right? It's just temporarily worth less. And then also to take a look at the Bitcoin price, because if you really do believe in the long-term future of this stuff, then your goal should be to collect more crypto, is what I think. That's my goal. So. I'm not sure why that would be happening, Sam. If you go into the holdings, if you click on Bitcoin and you go into the holdings, it actually show that you entered those trades in there. You might have to take a look at that. You might not have saved it. Sorry, trying to keep up here, guys. Got a lot of questions coming through. Answer a few more for you.
Yeah, guys.
In my...
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No problem. I'll grab this one. You can grab the next one. It says, in my Mew, I have Len, Salt, etc. How to convert these coins to fiat? Should I, again, convert them to F and list them on exchange to get fiat? Yeah, that's exactly it. It depends on what exchange you're using. If you're in Australia, which I know most of you are, and you're using CoinSpot, I know with CoinSpot has quite a few tokens on there that you can sell directly for fiat on there. But if you're trading on Binance, for example, and there's many, many different coins, what you would typically do is just that exactly. Trade it back to Ethereum and then sell the Ethereum, or, trade it to Bitcoin, sell the Bitcoin for fiat into your bank account.
Yeah, guys, so there's still a lot of you on the call, and I feel kind of bad actually for saying we're going to wrap it up. We're going to take another 1 or 2 questions. But in saying that, we can make it up to you because Derek and I are planning on doing a live stream. So I just did my own first live stream on YouTube for the first time. So we got the software and the setup. We figured out how to do that. So I'm going to be able to meet up with Derek probably in the next few days sometime. And then what we're going to do is we're going to try and do, another one of these maybe 2-hour live streams on YouTube. Hopefully we can get the webcams working so you can see us. And we can do another one of these Q&A sessions. We will notify you guys in advance for that. So really appreciate you guys there being here, and hopefully you got a lot of value out of this. One last thing I want to say before you go is that I'm a big fan of this pattern, which is the